I feel really hopeful when I see my students and I hear their questions and the things they want to learn and what they want to ask. That if given the tools, that I think they're really important questions, and it's awesome to be part of that conversation.
Presented by Sacramento Educational Cable Consortium. You're listening to Lights, Camera, Learn. All right, welcome to Lights, Camera, Learn. My name is Aaron Heinrich, and I have as my guest here today somebody I've known for almost 7 years maybe. Yeah. Melissa May, she's a teacher here at Intercom High School, right here in Sacramento. Mm-hmm. So yes, full disclosure, Melissa, you and I we've known each other for 6-7 years from when I was at ABC 10, and you helped fill in on the marketing show.
You were gracious enough to continue to let that happen, and it's great for me, a former industry experience, to still keep my foot in the door a little bit and check on the technology. And the kids think it's cool sometimes every now and then if I show up.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah, you really did work in media. I really did.
Right.
So yeah, it's been a great partnerships. That's how we got to know each other. And I'm still being a fan of the station. I would watch all the amazing marketing campaigns that you guys are doing.
Thank you.
And
yeah.
It was neat.
So you've shared with me how you made that switch from being in media to teaching media. Why don't you explain a little bit more about that for the folks who don't know what that looked like?
Well, sure, and thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
Big fan of SECC. Done so much for so many.
Sure.
Lots of teachers in my family, so always enjoyed education. Nobody believes me, but in high school, a little bit more low-key, and someone started a media program my junior and senior year in high school. It was fledgling. It was actually started by sort of a small cable channel that had a donation, and we had a teacher that was willing to try it. And there was something magical about getting a microphone and letting people share their stories. I always thought maybe I'd want to go into writing, which I still love to do, but this was a whole new eye-opening experience that there's technology, we can share stories and capture video, and it was just kind of coming out as a great storytelling tool.
Yeah.
So that really piqued my interest that I could do a career even in that, and went on to go to the University of Texas and study journalism there. And fast forward, was reporting and doing some morning shows, and I ended up at ABC after a couple different stations. While I was at ABC, they had a partnership where they recognized Teachers of the Year, and I always enjoyed it. Yeah. And sometimes when we'd go visit classrooms and they'd ask for guest speakers, I'd always really enjoy, especially gravitated towards schools that had media programs, because it's just a passion. And noticed there were some really exciting things going on in the Northern California community, and also would visit some stations that I thought, they had really solid foundational skills, but wow, it would be great if they could do a real world career visit, if they maybe got a chance to see why it's important to diversify your skill set, to be able to know how to edit, to work under deadline, but now social media and to write for the web. So many emerging fields that if you haven't been in the media in a couple of years, it might be hard to make sure that the kids are aware of that.
Yeah,
so it got me thinking about it. So a lot of schools would ask me to come visit and talk for career days and advice, what they're thinking, and I just really enjoyed it. And fast forward, Natomas was starting to rebuild their curriculum, realizing the need for public speaking and communications, and just basically empowering students to be stronger communicators. Mm-hmm. So started going back to get my teaching credential, thinking someday.
And didn't you tell me that you ran into somebody at a grocery store in the line or something that started talking to you about this a bit?
There was someone that was talking about a CTE, Career Technical Education credential. You'd be such a good teacher. Have you ever heard of this Career Technical? And I said, oh, okay. I sort of thought down the road, because I'm still under contract doing the morning show.
Right.
And I expressed my desire, gosh, I'd really like it. And they said, that's great. Once you finish your contract. So I was slowly, taking classes. So did slowly go back to get my certification. And the very last couple of months when I was at ABC 10, there was an opening to develop curriculum in Natomas Unified. They were building a pathway, what they hoped would be a media pathway, some sort of digital video communications type production class or pathway. So I started consulting, and then fast forward, they ended up saying, would you be interested in helping design curriculum and maybe running it? And it worked out. So I finished up contract at ABC, but still really want to keep my foot in the door, because I do think foundationally it's very helpful and beneficial for students to be as close to the real world skills and evolving technology as they can. So it does really help to fill in and see my friends and think, Des, one of our colleagues that we worked with, amazing mentor. Also great for students to see her career path. It might look different than mine, but it might make sense for someone else, or it might, it was great to meet like a chief photographer or someone that's in engineering, to still have access to such great career speakers in all those fields. And then also here, they can put the pieces together about how, my media journey, I'm using the same skills in a different way. Their journey might look a little bit different, but the skills that we're learning, all the amazing things they could do with those. So that's kind of how I got into the classroom, and I've been there 10 years.
Okay, I was going to ask how long it had been because I couldn't recall.
It's been 10 years. So I'm in my 10th year teaching, and now the pathway has about 180 students, and there's 3 levels. The second and third have college articulation with Consumnes River College, so we're really proud about that. And some of our students are partnering with the River Cats, so they have a professional production job before they finish high school, which is great. And most they're also hearing from a lot of diverse speakers who are just saying what your career is today. It may lead you slightly different, but what's essential are working with a team, communicating, collaborating, media skills in general. Most businesses love folks that can edit, that can produce copy or storytelling under deadline. And we found a lot of companies say it's very helpful having students that can shoot, be savvy with social media, a little bit of marketing, a little bit of writing. So all those skills will really, some of our students go into medical, and they found it's really helpful, or real estate, that they can put together their own marketing materials. So for a variety of reasons, they come to the pathway, but we hope the essential skills that they're learning are really going to set them up for success.
So when you're teaching, then do these different skills or abilities to apply those come out in the class, or they just kind of naturally evolve as the kids are learning and then go on and apply that after the fact?
A good question. I think some kids sort of self-select. This is a field of interest for them. They like the energy. They like their creativity. Some students, about a third, I would say, take it because public speaking is something they're really nervous about, and it's like a muscle. We don't all. Some of us start stronger at it, but it just continues to get better by the more you do it. Some of them try it just because it's something different. So. And they realize, wow, I really enjoyed that. There's something about putting something together, a whole story and editing, that I really liked. Or they're terrified that they'll never learn to edit. I promise you, if I can do it, you can do it. And we'll learn. So the guest speakers sometimes help connect the dots with, these are some other areas you could take this. For example, maybe you're going to work for the state, and kids think, oh, okay, but every agency from parks to DWR, to there's amazing opportunities, drones and beautiful equipment. It's a great way to pay your way through college. They're all looking for a fellow. Most of the internships are paid now. So one of our students was at KCRA, and we're doing a sports internship this summer. So lots of ways for them to see the kind of skills, how they could translate and benefit into a different job. And they also get a resume, and they can put all the jobs they've done in our class, which for students, it can be hard to build a professional career resume. So this gives them a chance to see what it's like to work with others, how to collaborate, what it's like to have professional language, what it means to transition with, we're not using those vocabulary words. We're doing an interview now, so they're more comfortable in an interview setting themselves. So some of them have said, they've actually gotten better opportunities just because they're learning some of those skills in class. They're applying them to their life outside the classroom. And then we also have just in levels 2 and 3 job mentors and job shadow programs. They actually go for 4 hours and they shadow, for example, Kevin John at ABC.
I was going to ask, so how do you set that up?
Sometimes it's with depending on where the student is. They get transportation and they meet the particular person, especially after COVID. It's a little bit different to get into certain buildings, but they might maybe meet someone that has spoken in their class that they've made a connection with, and they'll say, well, I'm doing an interview at Country Club Lanes on celebrity with the Kings players. If you could meet me from 7 to 10, you can watch how I ask my stories, how I hold my mic, how fast I turn it around, what I'm editing. Then that night we'll watch the newscast, or the next day in class we'll watch, this is what was edited together. This is what it was like behind the scenes, and we'll talk about, that process of going through the info.
And I'm just going to, so Kevin John is a sports anchor at ABC 10 here, the ABC affiliate in Sacramento, where Melissa's filled in, and she and I both used to work.
And he's just been a great resource for students. But Courtney Dempsey from Good Day, and Lisa Gonzalez from KCRA, and Desiree from ABC 10. We've just just been really fortunate and blessed with a great local community that really steps up to partner and bring those real world experiences. And kids are getting their news from different places from their phones. But for them to see someone that presents it and share, this is how I get a story. Marcus Allen has come in and talked about how he made some of his movies.
Yeah.
We've gone to Lucasfilms with SF Films because some of our students are interested in the more, After Effects and Adobe.
Can you explain what SF Films is?
Sure. SF Films, San Francisco Films was a great partner that I was trying to think about giving those real world experiences, especially during COVID, to students. And so we were able to, through Zoom or other formats, bring more industry speakers into the classroom that way. When we didn't have the opportunity to go outward, we tried to. So we had San Jose Sharks talk about their media relations and things like that. And so SF Films San Francisco Films is a nonprofit educational partner in San Francisco. They bring in a lot of big name directors as part of their educational foundation, and they offer screening opportunities and then sometimes Q&A with the director. And then they also look at emerging technology. For example, at Lucasfilms, they do a lot about with the how they're putting together sort of physics and storytelling and cinematography all in the same, so they can build some of the animatronics.
That's great.
You can shoot in smaller sets with more LED lights. So the overall goal is for serial production that needs to turn fast, with not as big a price tag maybe as a giant, months and months and months of movie, that you can have all these people together. So you're turning, and that was actually something from COVID, I think, that some of the companies said they realized, people wanted to binge their shows.
Yes.
So you need to make content effectively, have it look good, but also the quality be good, but turn it faster.
Right.
So it was interesting, some of the technology that's used. If you can understand a little bit of science, a little bit of storytelling, a little bit of Adobe After Effects, how you put those together.
Yeah.
And for students, look at the credits and see, that's, a lot of that's a lot of credits. That's maybe some good.
If you sit through it,
that's
there's
a good
6, 7, 10 minutes worth.
That's a good place to maybe start looking at what do those technologies do? How do I get hired? What does that look like? Because a lot of the students don't always, they know what they think they are interested in, which is great, but they maybe not. It's not always a straight line to get there. And so we talk, about internships and job shadows and resumes and guest speakers to pique their interest. And then we start plugging in how do we build that experience or, climb the steps to get to where we think we might want to go and understand we might start as a production assistant, or you might start, foot in the door getting coffee. But it's a great way to see if you still like the field.
Sure.
So I think partners like SF Films really bring a lot of opportunities to our students that, as an educator myself, without those connections, I wouldn't be able to. Free screenings. We've gone to SF MoMA, where students have a documentary film festival. So they're able to go for an hour to the museum. And then screen movies. A lot are shot on an iPhone. So it comes back to, if you are a good storyteller and you can put together a good story and be creative and work with others and do a deadline, it's not always about the fanciest editing software or cameras, which are wonderful. It's really about a good quality storytelling. And I think that it's actually empowering for students to realize, even with pen and paper, we can all create. And just if we get those mechanics down, we can learn all the different software and other things that are going to help build it out a little bit.
Sure. So then what would a typical day in your class look like, given all the things you just talked about?
All the many things. Yeah. It's never a dull moment.
I'm sure.
So we have 5 classes. One is zero period from 7:30 to 8:30. And that came from the realization that for some students it's difficult in their schedule, whether it's IB, so certain academic programs have a more formal sequence of classes in the order that you take that leaves less room for an elective or a CTE class. So the offer of zero period, since I used to do the mornings, the morning news, when they said, could you teach a zero period? Is it 3 a.m. or 4 a.m.?
Because you were used to waking up.
I was hoping to go to a school or bed.
Right.
And they said, oh no, this class starts at 7:30. It's like, oh my gosh, yeah,
I'm
can
sleeping
definitely
in.
do that. That's awesome. So zero period just opens up for students that really want to take the class. So that alone shows just the I think just the initiative and drive and interest that students have to, I'm excited. So zero period has 40 kids. So they come.
So those kids, 40 kids are waking up
early.
early.
An hour before. And I have 2 freshmen in the class.
Really? Okay.
And they come in, pardon me. So they just want to soak up the media. And that's a great way, if you're able to take it zero period, then you can continue your sophomore, junior, and senior year for the second and third level. So there are 4 intro classes, 4 offered during the day, and a fifth, second and third combo class. Then within 0 period and 4th period, there's a small pocket of level 2 students that just couldn't access this period with all their peers in level 2 and 3.
Yeah.
So they're basically in a different Google Classroom. So they're doing slightly different assignments than their peers that are level 1, but it allows them to continue in the pathway. And they do slightly different career field trips. And they have slightly different roles with our twice weekly Tiger Talk production. They might executive produce. They're all required to edit a whole show, to brainstorm the rundown, to start.
Great.
And they do a lot more of the production when we first start because they have more experience. So they might run the teleprompter and let a student that's just started, this is what we're doing with the cameras, this is how you set your shot, or anchors clip the mic, this is where we sit, director, TriCaster. Those things can have more of a learning curve. So it's nice that we have a second and third level. We also have a TA. So they come in Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and they do writing prompts that are hopefully topical to the issues of the day. And sometimes we'll look, for example, compare, contrast how you'll get the same story. Let's say it's intercom flag football. And we're going to watch 2 examples. Here's how Kevin John at ABC put together the story. And here's how Ashley at Good Day put together the story. So same story, but 2 different approaches. So that's where you use your creativity. Kevin brought some flag football players in and talked. So you really learned a lot about flag football. And then Ashley from Good Day went to a practice and kind of played a little bit, wanted to get some physicality video. And, those are both are fine approaches. What one did you like? What one would work for you? Where's the nat sound? What does nat sound mean? Are we taking people where they don't normally get to go with the camera? So we try to deconstruct what a good story or nat sound or good approach is.
Yeah.
And it's neat for them to see even how stories are covered on a national level, what it looks like if the BBC covers what's going on, what does it look like outside our community. And then we also brainstorm what we would like to cover in our own community, who would we like to spotlight. Let's go to a game. What happens if they lose? How are we going to do the interview? What happens if we have a whole story about senior night? It's not the outcome. What's the backup plan? This is a group of guys who've been playing together, 7 years. So then the story shifts, or maybe the student section was great, or maybe the band had a great night, or cheers. These are high school moments. So you always are pivoting, looking at getting different video. So each unit sort of tackles a skill. So we do like a natural sound, how to set the levels. And then we might do an editing unit in terms of how to import video from an SD card. And then another is news writing, which is very different and conversational, as you know, than some of the essay writers. And we talk about if we were to say, I encountered an automobile accident. Therefore, no, that's not how you would tell me. I'm late. There was a wreck. Then that's how we need to write and talk for television and broadcast news, because they can't go back and reread it. And if you lose them, you've lost your viewers.
Yeah, you have a very short period of time to get their attention and keep it.
Yeah, so a lot of the 55 minutes go fast, honestly, and then we have shows out every hard deadline, Tuesdays and Thursdays, so they're due by midnight the Monday and Wednesday before. So we have rotating crews that are signed on a spreadsheet.
And how long are each show?
5 minutes. We have a 5-minute hole, basically, where all the teachers are encouraged to show the videos on third period.
Okay.
And then occasionally we'll have some extra special additions, senior sign-off. That one's about 20, but all the students love it, where all the seniors get to say, class of 2026 signing off. So those are special. Or we'll do senior nights, football nights. We do special, usually Black History Month show. We've done a special, we usually do back to school memories, meet the staff, those kind of things. What are you thankful for? Gratitude shows. So sometimes there's additional content that we do too.
That's great. So going back to this idea of storytelling and then technology, how do you balance that to where, some people might tend to stress more of the technology, learning the basics of it, and then extending that, versus learning the whole storytelling element and using the technology to emphasize that?
That's a really good question, and it's a balance, I really think. So I think the shiny sort of toys and bells and whistles, the mini Osmo Cam, the GoPro, those are all amazing tools to tell stories. But bottom line is, we're still storytellers, and we want to have good information. And we can paint a picture with words, just like you can paint a picture with video. So we talk about we're visual communicators. We're media. We're a little different than prints because we have digital photography and yearbook at our school. But we're telling a story with a video camera and the information. And we also have an ethics unit, which started as an ethics unit and then now try to embed it sort of in every lesson, because they're ethical decisions daily with
Absolutely.
hourly with
Yeah.
how do we choose even what video, or
Yeah.
when we show them that was a great game, Intercom won.
Yeah.
But if we edit and we only show the other team's touchdowns, it might create a totally different impression of the same game. But you only have 2 minutes to show what happened.
Right.
So how do you choose? And then how do we balance the people that we're showcasing in our school? Are we always showing one group of students? Are we showcasing certain clubs or certain aspects of school? Sometimes athletes will say, how come we're doing too much of one sport, not another? We need more drama and music. It's a good balance. So it's all about the stories and the video that basically supplements that. I think it's a constant sort of we also
Yeah.
have students that never want to be on camera. They want to learn the technology, and then it's encouraging them to understand what the technology can bring to the table, maybe something they're passionate about, or a group that doesn't maybe feel they have as much voice on campus, or maybe it makes them just feel more connected. Or sometimes we tell them, if you're uncomfortable, you never want to be on camera, maybe you take the camera home and interview your grandparents.
Yeah.
Talk to them about
That's a great
some of
idea.
our students immigrated. I have families that immigrated. What a beautiful story. I still have video with my grandmother. She sang a lullaby to my daughter, and I still play.
Oh my gosh, that's great.
It was such a treasure. But it's video is really a way to, I think, sort of preserve storytelling, like
Yeah.
a really special moment in time, good or bad. And so I think it's a really powerful tool. So we talk about using the video tool and then being responsible and ethical with that. So I think the combination, hopefully, of reinforcing writing. I'm still old school with the writing notebooks.
Yeah.
Monday, Wednesday, Fridays to still the who, what, when, where, and why. So we're developing and thinking of not yes or no questions. And then we're practicing technology skills Tuesdays and Thursdays. We're using the tripod for better video. We're using good audio. We're critiquing other students, like with the SIVA story list. How did they put that together? What might work for us? We even watch other newscasts. So I think
That's
it's always
great.
nice to see,
Yeah.
just like the stations do. They
Yep.
always monitor what did everybody do and how they cover it. And I think students it just helps them become aware of what's out there and how they can use the tools.
Sure.
Some gravitate definitely more towards the storytelling or the technology, but everybody has to learn all the jobs, even if you never want to anchor,
That's
you never want to
great.
direct. We have a news writing unit where everybody has to write a newsreader, and everybody has to put the mic on and read it. It won't be seen by the whole school, but you do have to do it, and you do have to sit
Right.
with the lights and understand the process, and it makes you a better director.
Yeah.
It makes you a better anchor if you know how to direct, because you have a better understanding of what the team's doing.
I can understand that. So I want to talk a little bit about the ethics part, because some element of that sounds like media literacy, which is, at least I think, is probably sorely lacking in today's society. And it's nobody's particularly at fault. Partly it's because I think the media hasn't done a very good job of explaining how they do what they do. But I was just wondering then, Melissa, how you incorporate that into what you're teaching, both on the ethics side and just the general projects that you're giving kids.
I think to be an effective teacher, it's really about relationship building
Yeah.
and modeling, first and foremost, as best you can, what constructive communication looks like. What a positive communication, a positive storytelling. I always gravitated, I think, towards some of the positive storytelling
Sure.
interviews in my community. But with that said, also understood I had to cover a lot of hard news, the death
Yeah.
penalty case in Texas, and so you do need to be able to do that and have the skills to do that. But I think it starts with modeling and being open in class and having those discussions and creating a safe place where they can ask questions.
Yeah.
I think there are some hard things to talk about today in the world, for sure.
Yeah.
And sometimes you even think, oh my gosh, how are we going to wrap our arms around this one? But it starts with hopefully them feeling safe to ask a question about it, or how are you feeling about that? And then what do you think of a better, how would you wanted to tell that story? Or what did you think about this?
Yeah.
So I think that helps. Then the media literacy, really having conversations about, where do you get your media, and then understanding, making sure that they know the power is in your hands. That, when you watch certain stories on your phone, there are algorithms, you're going to get those same kind of stories.
Yes.
So you really need to make an effort to make sure that your news is balanced. It's very different from growing up and watching TV when news feels, an obligation to present all sides. It's a little different when you just hop on your phone and you pick the side
Right,
that you want
yes.
to read, and that's kind of what
Which
you're
is a lot easier to do.
But we always, talk about both sides, and even just things about just lighting both sides, and how everybody, not one person looks better or worse than the other. And even if we don't agree with someone, there's always something to learn. And how are we respectful? And I like to be honest and transparent about the times that maybe I didn't do the best job. Maybe I covered a court case and I really thought the outcome, the person was not a good person.
Do you ever bring any old tapes with you?
So, and so sometimes, thankfully for mine in Texas or some mistakes, but I talked about once, being part of a situation where I think I goaded a defendant that had ended up getting in trouble, and the court case was decided, and they ended up taking a swing at the photographer and I, and I went back to my news tracks. Can you believe that? We got them. He took me aside, and I thought he was going to say, great job out there, good hustle. And he said, so I just want you to think about something. I was like, okay. And he said, if you're the family, how, and this is what the news is tonight. Mm-hmm. Do you think they're able to absorb the verdict, or is this sort of sideshow that's taken over that was in part created by your presence and your decisions? How would just think about how that might feel if you're in someone else's shoes? That yes, you feel that person, but we were sent to cover the verdict. We weren't sent to be part of the verdict or create diversion from we should have just, here's the verdict, and that was that, and that really resonated.
How did you react when he brought that up?
It was an incredible learning moment. I was really grateful that I would have a manager that would take me aside to explain it, to open my eyes to that. When you cover a story, there are people that are seeing it from a lot of different sides. Sure. And your job is not to be part of the story. Your job is to give information as best you can as a neutral observer. But even when we have speakers come, like my husband Brian May, who did sports for years, he talks about how many autographs do you think I have? He brings in all his press passes and talks about all the different locker rooms he's been in, Super Bowls, and the kids, how's that so? 0. Yeah. And they're like, what about? He said, you were not there to be a fan. We're there to be cover the news. And he talks about all these stories about fans spitting and they don't know who you are, and so it actually, hearing it from someone other than me helps too. Yeah. But we even have broken it down with when we cover and get press passes at our school. The athletes and the athletic director, we give a briefing. This is the box you can stand on. We can't cheer, and every year they get so excited and they forget. They're cheering, and
I can imagine
that can be penalties for our team. Yeah. We can't be on the visitor side. Those media habits of when they're going on outside our community, if they can practice here at when the stakes are a little bit lower.
That's great.
And we're doing the right thing. We're learning, and we have a public safety pathway. When media comes to cover an accident, we can get the job done. We don't always have to be in the way, but we are also under deadline, and we do have to get information. Right. You have to be accurate, and we've got an earpiece. And people are wanting rather definitively, what do you have? What do you know? Let's go. So you can't. We work a lot on deadlines, but also, I think you can still find a balance to be constructive and get the information.
Yeah. So we were kind of talking about technology. I have to ask you, how are you using AI in any of this?
Good question. That's a big issue. So on our Chromebooks and our MacBooks, so second and third year levels have use Macs that have Adobe to help them be. One thing after COVID, we realized it was really hard to get as proficient with skills if you couldn't practice editing all the time. Right. So we were able to get a grant to do MacBooks for second and third year levels, so they would have access to that. One thing we did notice, sometimes with the Chromebooks would have limits with if you're logged onto Chrome with the access you can use. So they started limiting, Chat GPT and things like that. And then we also had that on the Macs as well. So it's a little bit more equitable. So everybody uses the Chrome browser. Okay. So that helps too. Now with media creation, we also do the definitions in our notebooks. So I said, this is what I'm looking for, in class, that we're going to talk about. What is a news anchor? For example, a timeline. What's a timeline in editing? We put all your clips in order. And so a timeline in media means something very different than a timeline in history.
Yes,
if you chat the GBT timeline and put that on the answer to our quiz, you're not going to get it right.
You're not going to get it right. You are not.
It happens every year.
I bet. Yeah.
So I always say, what I'm looking for is, how do we use this in class? Or we just did TV job slideshow. What is a TV photojournalist? And some students, would search, what is a photojournalist? And still pictures would come up. It would say press, and they were covering
Right.
a war. But when was the last time I sent you out with a still camera?
Exactly.
We had that.
Right.
That's your book. And just,
Yeah.
oh,
Yeah.
okay. So I think there are ways to sort of filter what
Right.
they're doing. But I think it's definitely something for us to be mindful of. Sometimes there'll be certain video ideas. I think they use it as a search. I'm looking at doing a PSA on animals. Could you give me some ideas?
Yeah.
And I think there's some value in, like, as a brainstorming tool, but ultimately to have them be the creators.
Yeah.
With video and editing, we had a little bit easier than some of the other subjects at first, because it was pretty easy to tell. It's not like a literary document was manipulated.
Sure.
But now with editing and images, it can be a little bit scary, So basically, they have to get a camera and record and do their own material, or use from like WeVideo or stock. So we're looking at more at the structure of putting a story together and helping them sort of piece together some of the other elements.
Right.
So it's definitely an issue. Technology is a great tool, but we don't. It's something that we're monitoring for sure.
Yeah.
It's something that we have, and I have seen uses where it's been beneficial.
Yeah.
And I know in the medical community it's very helpful as well, like in terms of diagnosis and things like that. So it's helpful, just like social media. Honestly, I'm a believer that I think rather than say don't do it, it's bad, equip them with information and to use it in a responsible way. Here are ways social media can be very helpful.
Yeah.
You can be a social media journalist. The Kings have journalists that purely run their social media accounts, and what's an example of good accounts. And so we help SPCA with doing positive accounts and pictures, and because they're so powerful, those pictures and images.
Absolutely.
And students really know what other students would find interesting and informative.
Yeah.
But there are also ramifications. Don't show the animals in this light. Make sure we're doing that. So they're understanding it's not just sort of a free-for-all. Mm-hmm. We also have to talk a lot about what you can use.
Yeah.
Just because you see it on social media and you retweet it doesn't mean it's yours, or you
So what kind of
exit or
So what kind of guidance are you giving your students relative to that?
So we do a whole unit. It used to be a little bit easier when you could check the source and
Right.
the URL.
Right.
Double check.
Right.
Now it's a little bit different.
Yeah.
But so KQED has a great resource and micro digital battle. So we do align a little bit.
And that's a public broadcasting
Broadcasting in San Francisco.
Yeah.
We also use a little bit of KVIU resources too.
Uh-huh.
KQED has developed more of a media literacy, media
Yeah.
technology
Yeah,
literacy program.
I've seen that.
So that's been really helpful and as an educator, to look at what they're doing. They've done some deep dive, sort of micro certification classes, and just more, sometimes just information sessions too, with what are teachers seeing or educators seeing. So that's been helpful, and attending some seminars. California AME Arts Media, and they've been very helpful and upfront, with offering a lot of webinars and about the trends and where that's going, just for us to be aware of.
Yeah.
And then our IT department too, they're pretty good about, these are some things that just be noticing, monitoring, watching.
Right.
It's helpful if we can create a big project. Say you have a news package due in a month or 3 weeks, step by step check-ins and skills along the way, so I can give feedback and authentically make sure that it's this student and their timeline, and I'm watching them put the video that they got off their camera, and I saw them do the interview, and I saw that maybe the mic was a little low or the light, so they get direct feedback, so they understand how to go in and make it a little better. And we all watch everybody. We just do presentations. Some don't enjoy it, but it's great for them to see, which is why SCCC, like in the SIVA Awards, is such a valuable, one of the many reasons, valuable resource. To see other student peer work is a really powerful motivator about, wow, I want to do that. Okay, let's break down. How do you think they got that?
Yeah.
How was the audio? It sounded great. How did the audio sound?
So for anybody both watching and listening, the SIVA Awards are an actual award program that we have here at SCCC, where students throughout Sacramento County can enter their projects in a number of categories, then be judged by media professionals and other teachers. I think it's great that you're using the winners as an opportunity to teach the kids why they won and what they could be doing better.
I think it's such a wonderful way to look at. A lot of students have great ideas, and it's a wonderful way to look at. Here's someone that took that idea, and they put it all together, and they helped somebody with that. The PSA, public service announcements, I think just a great tool for us to use media and education and benefit the community, with an opportunity for some of our nonprofits to have students grow their skills and offer that service, and have students see, wow, with what I know how to do, I could really help a community or a mom and pop business, or a, or just maybe it's they're helping the library better promote. Some of our students are doing a literacy effort, reach all the resources that our library has, but in a way that students would connect to it, because they see it through the lens of what's watchable and exciting to them, and can produce content that really fits what they're looking for. So I think they're very powerful media consumers. So I think they also have great ideas about what makes good media, and sort of look at it as a role to connect them with the right tools, but also with the thought process to think through. Just because we can record stuff doesn't always mean you throw it out there.
So with regard to some of that, how are you working to get your kids off the campus and out in the community to tell some of these stories?
I think as a CTE teacher, career technical education, it does offer up some grant funding for field trip and career exploration. So that is a real positive. There's also more paperwork. Not always as positive, but so worth it for students. So I think that does offer the opportunity to get out in the community and take the buses and go to KCRA or go to Good Day or ABC 10.
Sorry to interrupt, but you also were at the River Cats, which is local, minor league baseball team here. And then some of you are bringing students to a Sac Republic football
for the Steva Fest
soccer game,
and in the spring we also do Sacramento Kings. We recently started that 2 years ago, and that was amazing because for me, I would think the draw for a student would be seeing. I think the control room is amazing, but seeing the facility. Many students spoke about the incredible IT network. It looked like a Star Wars movie back there. I mean, it had the light. It looked beautiful like this. But they were explaining, what are they doing in there with all the lights? And it really did look like a set from like Empire Strikes Back, with all the lights and the grid and
I bet.
And they were explaining that's where we store like a lot of our games. That's how we're able to do instant replay. That's how we're able to watch so many different channels. It just sort of blew their minds about all these things that they see. Wow, there are jobs connected to that, and how do I get into that? And it sparked a whole conversation where I've been, internships. Like, Miss May, but seeing, I want to work here. Oh, that internship you said, how do I do that again? And you need a resume, and we need to have this on it, and then it connects the dots. Which River Cats came in part from there was a person in HR that worked there years ago. Remembered when I spoke at Heron.
You're kidding.
It was kind of a story. It's great. So she sort of remembered. She had actually called saying, hey, we're looking just to help partner with the local media program. She said, I'm not as familiar with WSAC. Do you know anyone? I said, oh gosh, yes. And when can I come over?
Happened too.
So we met. And then fast forward, it's been a great, so it kind of was just a way to get students connected with a media partner. But it was also a great way as an educator teaching Adobe, which Adobe's one of the editing platforms, more professional, like a Final Cut or something like that. When you move from what they call is the iMovie, which we call WeVideo, similar, a little bit easier access to start, and you start moving into Adobe. It's great, but it definitely moves slower, and some students sort of have groans, it's so clunky and I miss. But if we want to keep going and you're serious about this field, you really need to have a professional editing background or some sort of software. So the River Cats stressed the Adobe. If you can do Adobe, we can turn videos faster. It's a 7th inning stretch, and light bulbs went off. So then we started thinking, how could we do that field trip? We first started teaching Adobe, and then to help for River Cats' benefit, get students ready, put the carrot out there, show them the beautiful facility, and then in January when they have a hiring fair, they've already put the face to, they remember, you're from so-and-so. So the kids have already maybe a foot in the door, and they've already improved their skills for those that are motivated to do so. So they have an edge instead of going to a giant career fair for a place they would love to go but aren't really sure about. Now they've met the person. Now they know some of the skills they're looking for. Now they're on a first-name basis with the person. Now their resume's at the top. And so it's kind of connecting those dots. So the River Cats has just been a tremendous partnership. And now that they're owned by the Kings, that's how we sort of started opening the door to get back into the Kings. just seeing their facility. And they do some internships. You have to be 18.
Yeah.
And then the A's being there as well. It's just an amazing opportunity for some of the students that go to work the River Cats. Then they're able to come back and watch a professional A's game and sit and watch the broadcaster. And one of our students just went back and listened to Jenny, who's one of the broadcasters for the A's.
Yeah.
And that was really inspirational for a female aspiring sports journalist to get to sit and job shadow for 4 hours someone that's calling a major league game. That's just an incredible opportunity.
Yeah.
And Katie Christensen did a Zoom from the Kings and just, sort of shared her insights and challenges and really stressed good storytelling.
Yeah.
And also stressed just having a thick skin.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people feel free to share their opinions.
Yes, they do.
Which isn't a bad thing, because oftentimes, we ask for feedback and opinion. So it's fair if we ask that we also have to look at what people are saying, even if we don't agree with it. It's very valuable to try to listen to dialogue and exchange ideas, whether or not we're always on the same page, try to find some common ground. And there's always something that we can improve on. And sometimes it might not be said in a way that's the easiest for us to maybe absorb, but there's probably something there to look at that we could adjust and grow and be better. And I always tell students, I don't expect you to be great editors, storytellers, but we do expect growth, and we do expect you to try. So we're going to start from here, and we're going to build the skills, just like I remembered very painfully some of my first on-camera experiences. And oh my gosh, thankfully we had a really patient manager. You're a good storyteller, slow down, think about the people and I always loved storytelling, and did my first on-air job in Texas. It was rather humid and had longer hair. he had to have a conversation where he said, "Hey, I know you love the stories and people. I'm so appreciative. Can we talk about your hair?" It was definitely not what I expected. Sure. He said, "Do you enjoy styling it?" Not really. And he said, "Yeah, I know." And I was like, "Oh my gosh." He said, "No, I'm being honest." And your stories are solid, but if people are distracted by your sweaty hair or it's mad at your head, or how come our hair looks this way one day and this way the other, they're not getting to what you're trying to tell them. They're distracted by something small that you can change. So I really it took someone to sort of point out TV is about appearances, and it's really, so sometimes you sort of look at, do we have that role where it might seem like a niche thing or a small thing, but it might be something that helps someone get a job that no one just slowed down to say, so he said, if in TV you're going to hear a lot of things. I really think, keep going with the stories, keep going, slow down, cut your hair.
Well,
and I did, and it was good advice. And he still jokes about it. I said, "Oh, that was such a hard conversation. You were so nice, and I felt so bad, and you should have seen your face." And I said, I never really occurred to me, but the further you go on, the more you do have to really pay attention to those details and tell the students the same thing. So we do grants where we all wear Tiger Talk shirts, so you don't have to worry about your outfit, and you don't have to worry about what you're wearing. Everybody looks the same, and the goal is, even if you have great style, which is awesome, you're going to show some of your awesome style with what we're saying in the video we're showing, and your personality and how you deliver it.
Right.
And it's just, you never want to overpower the story or the information. So that's what we try to help make it a more comfortable process where it's still back to the story and the video, and we can just, help make that learning curve a little bit easier.
I think that's great. A lot of teachers that are teaching media don't have the background that you do that they bring to the class. Not that they can't teach it, because they do a great job at it, but what advice would you give current media educators in terms of how to stay current, how to bring some of what you bring to the classroom without having that kind of experience?
First, thank you for what you're doing. It's so important.
Yes.
It's so important for the students to have this outlet and to have someone that's breaking it down. I think just a real heart and commitment for teaching it, which obviously they have. I think and I definitely understand, the limitations of getting the opportunity to go on career visits, but if you can in any way, it really does help modernize what you're teaching. And if we've learned anything from just education in general, at least in my limited experience, kids have more buy-in when they understand, how is this connecting to my life? What is the real world implication? Why am I learning this? Why am I doing this? And if they understand, with Adobe, for instance, we're not trying to hammer this software, but it's to set you up for success that we want you to have because you liked it there. Oh, it's great. They need you to have an understanding of how that works.
Yeah, you're not doing it just because.
Oh, okay. Or these video cameras. So we're not necessarily going to start on the Sonys. We're going to start with, the Canon camcorders. But it's the same concept. When you can do wide, medium, and tight, a good sequence, good net sound, that's going to work no matter what you shoot. When you can do it with your phone. So I think when you visit a station, it really puts into play, what we're doing with 3 cameras and a headset. And when they see 20, they understand, okay, Miss May, I get why if we're saying too much in the headset, there's like 20 people listening. Or I said, what about if you're the anchor on the set and you're nervous? I know I know there's a lot going on, but I don't really want someone screaming in my ear. And so we need to just temper it down. You're the voice, we stay calm. But aren't you? Yes, a lot of times, like my heart's pounding. I feel like I could throw up and my knees shaking. But you just...
well, you do a good job of hiding all of that.
You just kind of, you find a way to control the butterflies. So they get practice a lot of times. So I would say for media teachers, if they can have something where they work as a team, to do a product, no matter what they go into, that's such a valuable skill. You don't always get to pick who you're going to work with or who you're going to. So I think collaborating with others, and I think having people involved in something that forces you to communicate is just a huge tool. If you can't do the career field trips, or you're not able to do like a SEVA Fest, that's a wonderful program, or an opportunity where you can maybe have someone come to your class. Maybe you could ask for resources and your district could help. Your district could help bring a career speaker to you. Or maybe you could look at recording a show and having the kids watch it. How do you think that worked? For example, Survivor is like this great reality show. There's amazing behind-the-scenes videos and nuggets, and sometimes I'll just play one of those.
Really?
Yeah,
okay, I didn't realize
the
that.
GoPro underwater.
Oh,
the behind-the-scenes, the over-the-top cam, the drone cam. How do they do all that? I wonder, how are they not all, there must be like some 3-ring circus with so many cameras. But to see behind the scenes, and they're saying, that's a photographer, that you like the beach, that guy, he spends his whole day on the beach with a camera. And so they, there are ways to bring the skills and what the jobs look like into the community. Also, NBC News does a really good learning academy. That they do. They're about 4 minutes and between 4 and 5 minutes. What is it like to be a technical director? What is it like to be a news director? What is it like to be a reporter, anchor, production
And this is
assistant?
on the NBC main network site?
On NBC, you can just go to YouTube.
Yeah.
It's like the NBC Learning Academy.
Okay.
And for example, we've taken studio tours that they do behind the scenes of the Today Show, that they do behind the scenes of Good Morning America. And for kids to... they understand, they're taking behind the scenes, and that's what we want to do with a good story, is take people where they can't go. So we even just look at video, we look at other football or homecoming or, all that kind of stuff that they're interested in. You get them hooked, and then how do they do that? And then we start to practice those small skills, like the tripod Olympics. We time how fast you can set them all up and get the shot.
Kind of like a Formula One pit crew.
Really. Or, describe the details that are on your table today. Okay, we're going to turn around, describe 5 more. So noticing where we are, practicing interviews. There are really affordable ways to do media with your phone, just the plug-in microphones. We have those too. Some students just want to practice at home. You can practice and record.
That's a really good point, because that's how they're consuming it to
so
begin
we
with.
tell them, got my phone, phone sideways, landscape mode. There's a plug-in for like $29, great microphone. So now you have 2 things that elevate your quality, better visual and audio, and then we'll try to do topical things that they're interested in. September is Mental Health Awareness Month. What is a conversation you wish you could have with an adult that you wish they'd understand? And even if it's just me that sees it, they're articulating how they feel.
Yeah.
And sometimes we write it down first.
Okay.
And then we storyboard a little bit. So for media teachers, I think it's just getting kids to talk about things they're interested in, doing interviews, starting on a low stakes, what's your favorite Halloween candy, to get to working your way up, interviewing new people on campus. It builds community. And then watching just some content together and having a conversation about how they did it, and then looking up natural sound. what do you hear? What are you go for? We're going to tell one of the hardest stories that they kick and scream about is our natural sound. You need to tell a story where you are not on camera.
Right.
All my hams.
Yeah.
You have to tell a story with the ambiance, the leaves crunching or the students in the cafeteria.
That's fantastic.
Just to get them hearing what's going on and being sort of grounded in where they are.
So I'm going to date some of this, but I had a boss once that went to grad school as a journalist, and he said the first project he had with his professor is professor wasn't in the room yet, but every desk had white pages on it.
Oh.
So the professor comes in, he says, I want you all to close your eyes and I want you to open up the pages and put your finger on something, and whatever you land on, that's the person you're going to have to contact to do a story on.
Oh, wow.
So talk about freaking people out.
Wow.
So my old boss did this. He tried the phone, it was dead. So he goes back to the professor and he says, I can't reach this person. He said, there's your story.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
Why don't they answer the phone? Why is their phone dead? Did they move? Why did they move? Where did they go to? What's all the other things that created the story that got to the point of their phone no longer being active?
Okay. Did they move? Were they?
Right. I think part of this, Melissa, is that I think the thing that sounds too like you're teaching your students, even with the walking and just that sound, is there are stories everywhere, right? Mm-hmm. And you don't have to have it blazing in your face if you're a curious person, and hopefully, most people still have that even in high school, although sometimes who knows. But certainly adults start to lose it, I think, to some extent. But I think the curiosity factor is what keeps people in the business of telling stories.
I think you had mentioned earlier too, from a media perspective and media literacy, what could we do sort of as media educators, people that have some experience in media, to share a little bit behind the scenes. I think with ABC 10 we stand for you. Why do you like that job, and what do you mean stand for you? And we're trying to show things in your community and information that are useful to you. Or KCRA shares when they do their tour, they bring a whole creative services team in, and they talk to they have a team that does stories on the people that are doing stories, so to watch the stories that you might, because you might
what
not
a great
know.
Idea. Yeah.
And that's a really hard job for me to explain to kids. It's like, what? Like, because we don't really do that. And then they actually said, well, how are you promoting your news at school? That's a good question. We probably should be. but I think she actually said there were a couple of people that spoke, and our tour person said, could you speak a little bit to the students about storytelling with purpose? Like that's what drives what we do.
That's a good idea.
Why do we do what we do? To tell stories with purpose. And the person had been there like 28 years and was explaining, there used to be a few stations and then some cable and then thousands of opportunities. And now it's trying to find stories, tell them in a fair way, and navigate a more challenging media landscape. I think the plus side is students are very savvy and they're very creative. They absorb a lot, so they're hungry for information, visuals, and things that move fast. But the challenge is making sure that they're equipped with the right information. Is this solid information, and where did this come from? It's just because it's there doesn't mean it's the only truth, or that that's the only way to look at a situation, or that it is something we should even watch and consume. There are all those decisions, or and I think it's the same thing with social media. It's having them be aware that it can be a really powerful, positive tool, but sometimes there's limits on how long we should go down that rabbit hole. And then we do a unit on, okay, we're applying for scholarships in colleges. They're checking your social media. There's horror. We have had students that have lost scholarships because of what's on their social media. We've had students lose jobs because of what's on the social media. And how far back does it go? I had a colleague at ABC that lost their job because of something they had in college, like a drinking picture. But at the time, the station was going for safe driving. That was they were doing a whole campaign, and that definitely did not fit as a public-leaning person. Although it wasn't anything current behavior. But still, it's like that, and that was like 12 years back.
But there still could have been an assumption that was still behavior.
Right. So that was another thing we talk about. Or if I, wear certain colors to a game, people are going to assume I'm a fan. I may or may not be, but I probably don't want to wear Dodger blue if I'm a Red Sox fan. So
unless you want to be hassled through the whole game.
I think it's there are definitely a lot of challenges, but we have lots of opportunities just to at least plant the seed, or try to plant the seed, just to have them be more aware consumers.
Yep.
And maybe from media too, just explain a little bit about, why we love what we do, and why we're doing it. And in a really challenging, honestly, like a media landscape that's changing and very dynamic. Making sure students are aware of what's out there, and how they can be a positive piece.
Yeah. Well, this has been great, Melissa. I'm definitely going to have you come back and talk more, because I know you can. So anything, last words, last piece of advice you'd like to share with folks?
Wow. Sometimes people ask, is it harder or more rewarding in media? And now you can say in education.
Yeah.
I think the challenge, definitely, I've covered some really hard and amazing things in the media. I'm so grateful for that career, and still feel connected to it. But the chance, hands-on, to actually impact and help shape other people to be more confident communicators, and to give them tools or a platform or a voice is tremendous. I think if we just sort of keep trying and hopefully we're giving information out there that's going to benefit people. It's so important to continue providing that and having that opportunity for students to feel heard, and a connection. Really, it's a positive connection. It's a tool to connect. I think is fascinating. So I've probably learned so much more teaching in the 10 years. I've been challenged in ways I never expected, or how to wow, I never really saw myself responding to the situation. Never really wow, that was okay. Face some weird things in media. This is definitely a different sort of an emotional kind of concern that you have. You wish you could do so much more.
Sure.
But I've seen just such value in whether it's just writing thoughts or recording or documenting, just using technology, that students leave, even if they're not in the media field per se, that if they're slightly more confident media consumers and then more educated about it, I think that's a powerful tool for all of us.
I think it is too. Yeah.
And I feel really hopeful when I see my students and I hear their questions and the things they want to learn and what they want to ask, and why they're wondering why things work this way.
Right.
That if given the tools, that I think they're really important questions that they're asking, and it's awesome to be part of that conversation.
Right. Well, thank you. I really appreciate taking the time to be here. Thank you, Melissa.
My pleasure.
Well, that's it for this episode of Lights, Camera, Learn. You can catch all of the episodes on Spotify, YouTube, Apple Music, and our secctv.org website. And you can help support us on Patreon by clicking Lights, Camera, Learn. Until the next episode, make it a great day. Thank you.